So we're going to start tonight's City Council meeting for South Burlington for April 22nd, 2025. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by our City Manager, Jesse Baker.
April 21st.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a typo. It's actually the 21st. I just took it for granted that it was right. Thank you. Good. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item 2, instructions on exiting this building in case of emergency and review of technology options. Jesse Baker.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you are in the building and there's an emergency, you can go out the rear of the auditorium on the left or right, and then turn left or right to get outside. For those joining us remotely, thank you for being here as well. If you have any comments during any item on the agenda, you can turn your camera on and the chair will call on you, or you can indicate you'd like to make a comment in the chat and I will have the chair call on you. Other than that, we are not monitoring the chat for content.
Thank you, Jesse. Item 3, which is agenda review. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes in the order of the agenda items tonight? No. Okay, thank you very much. Item 4, comments and questions from the public not related to tonight's agenda. Anybody online or in the auditorium would like to make a public comment about something that's not on the agenda tonight? Please come forward or raise your hand online. Going once, going twice. Okay, nobody wants to make a public comment. We'll now go to Councilors' Announcements and reports on committee assignments and City Manager's report. Lori, would you like to start?
So we did on the 10th of April have the City Council retreat, which was spirited and useful, and we actually have planned to have another one on May 7th. So it seems to be a pretty productive time for us, and I'm glad we're doing it. I met with the sextons on the 8th, and we did another review of the rules and regulations, getting closer to having something ready to pass off to staff to get approved and move that process forward. And there was a conversation, which I mentioned earlier, about the flagpole. And it would be great if there were an easy way for this to be resolved. I know that changing ordinances is not necessarily easy, and I know we have a full docket, but if there's a way to get that resolved for them, it would be wonderful. There was a presentation of the Economic Development Plan by I don't remember the name of the organization that's doing the work, Civic Soul. It was a very interesting presentation with data that was somewhat surprising about South Burlington getting younger and population growth and demographics. It was a really interesting presentation. And the Recreation and Parks meeting was mostly focused on the Illuminate Vermont event that's going on this coming weekend, which hopefully everybody will come to, and just review of the launch of the open space and parks and open space master plan. And it was amazing to see over 100 people come out to attend that open house, and excellent. And there will be 2 vacancies for the Rec and Parks Committee coming up in June, and so that's something that we'll be needing to deal with. And I know we're coming up on our committee annual review time. So
2 people do not want to run.
2 people are
they're stepping down.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I have for you today.
Thank you, Lori. Andrew?
Along with Lori, I attended the Sextons meeting and think they're making good progress and hope to have something back to the city soon policy document. I also attended the session with the consultants doing the economic development plan. So along with learning that our city is getting younger, I think they also said we're relatively more affordable than many other places in the country, at least that they compared us to. So two pieces of interesting data that maybe were unexpected or not quite, I don't know, counterintuitive, but counter narrative, I suppose.
Yeah.
Counter narrative. Then I attended the Safe Routes to School task force meeting where we kind of continued working on gathering data and looking at surveys and planning for identifying obstacles to the remaining schools that we're working on. That's Orchard and Rick Marcotte, and also talked about a little bit about the next steps for that task force and thinking about the durability of that and when and if to fold it in under bike ped and how that will work and how to keep the school engaged when that happens. So that's something that's to come. And then I attended a statewide climate action plan input session at CVU High School last week. Really interesting session. They took a lot of good feedback through the mobile app and other sources, and also comment. And looks like they're doing a really good job on the plan, which is due. The statewide plan is due this summer, and that's it.
Thank you, Andrew. As you may have known, I missed the April 7th City Council meeting because I was on vacation. I went to Florida, took the opportunity to, just like driving from LA to San Francisco, drove from Miami to Key West. It's like a 3.5-hour drive. It's a series of keys and bridges and keys and bridges. And it was my first time there. It was a lot of fun. Learned a lot. Read about some history. Then drove back to Miami Beach and spent 3 nights there and really appreciated the Art Deco hotel architecture and whatnot. So, but one thing I did get to see, which I haven't seen since I was a teenager, were a whole lot of Portuguese men of war jellyfish that had washed up on shore because there were 20 knot winds out of the east every single day, except for the last day. So that was, I haven't seen blue chewing gum blowing up like a bubble and sitting, on the beach with a bunch of tentacles. And I had to caution my son not to touch it because they're really painful if you touch those. I did go to the city council retreat the next day after I came back from vacation. I also went to a housing committee book discussion. It was very interesting. A lot of perspectives were shared. Vince Bolduc has some interesting stories about steering, and I think he wrote about it in the other paper as well. And there was some discussion there about developers that I may have gotten involved in a little bit, but it was good discussion. And then Jesse and I attended a leadership meeting with Violet and Chelsea from the school board and the superintendent's office, and that's all I have at this point. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. So I don't have a whole lot tonight. Just a reminder that our next council retreat, as Lori said, is May 7th at 1. Illuminate Vermont this weekend. Our team is working really hard to pull off a great event. Thank you to Public Works and Public Safety, and of course, Jennifer and Adam and Alana for a lot of scheduling. Friday and Saturday nights between 5 and 9 p.m. here on Market Street. There'll be food trucks and vendors and magic and music, and lots of neighbors come on by. And then just a reminder, I mentioned this at the last meeting, but the next Saturday, May 3rd, is Green Up Day, Vermont Green Up Day. We have bags available now in the clerk's office, and the drop-off will be at 577 Dorset Street midday that day. That's all I have.
And at Illuminate VT will be 2 city councilors, Lori and I, at the chat with the city councilor table. We do not have the hours set up yet, but we
Time to be determined.
yeah, but we'll be there at some point. So great, thank you, Jesse. Now we're going to go to the consent agenda, item 6, and we have several items to vote on. One is the the documents for the AP warrant and the water warrant. which is 6A. 6B, which is approve the award of construction contract for the Bartlett Brook Stormwater Treatment System Expansion Project, South Burlington STP MM 1817 to Poulin Companies Incorporated. 6C is approve the award of the construction inspection contract for the Bartlett Brook Stormwater Treatment System Expansion Project and award that to Greenman Pedersen Incorporated. Item 6D, approve a fund balance award of $52,000 to Common Roots to support the purchase of a Rymall greenhouse and authorize city manager to sign the grant agreement. Rymall is spelled R-I-M-O-L. 6E, approve submittal of Step 3 loan application for the Airport Parkway Solids Handling Project. And then 6F, approve the minutes from December 2nd, December 12th, December 16th of 2024, and then January 6th, January 13th, February 3rd, February 5th, February 6th, February 18th, March 6th, and March 17th of 2025. Goodness, that is a lot of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin.
Is it Rimall or Rymall?
I was told Grimall.
Okay. And then we're on to item 7, which is approve resolution 2025-8 recognizing Arbor Day 2025. And you said Tom is on vacation, right?
Tom is on a well-deserved vacation, but tonight we have Nick with us. Come on down. Nick is our new city arborist. I think he is 2 weeks on the job.
Yep, just starting week 3, so
Welcome.
Yeah.
Gotta push the green button.
So
In front of it, there you go.
there we go.
Nick joins us most recently from Velco. He's a ISA certified arborist, has a CDL, and lots of other certifications. He has a bachelor's in science and natural resources and is a South Burlington resident. So we're pretty psyched to have him here and thought that this would be a good opportunity with this Arbor Day resolution, which is very frequent and we approve most years, to introduce Nick to you at the same time.
So your
Welcome
previous
aboard.
employer was
Vermont Electric Power Company.
Velco?
Yep.
So coming here is kind of you're branching out a little bit.
I could say that, yeah.
Sorry. Great. So you have the resolution. Is it worth reading?
Yes, I do. Oh, I have it right here, yeah.
Let's
Would
hear
you like
it.
me to read through it?
Sure.
Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees in our city can increase property values, enhance economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of South Burlington, Vermont, do hereby proclaim May 2nd, 2025 as Arbor Day. In the city of South Burlington, Vermont, we urge all residents to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Further, we urge all residents to plant and care for trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of this and future generations.
Great. That sounds great. I did notice that there are plantings going on now of probably ash tree replacements.
Correct.
And I think I was going down, could it be Four Sisters or Vale or Nolan Farm?
Yep,
Nolan
the
Farm Road?
Four Sisters is getting
Yeah,
a
there were
bunch
chunks
of-
of plywood that were covering holes that were probably getting ready to have plantings or.
Yeah, we've got one of our contractors is out. They're prepping some of the sites. They've got an excavator doing the digging, and then
Yeah.
they've got crews coming behind that to plant. So yeah, under the plywood, you'll find a tree-sized hole.
Yeah. So it's good. So we're seeing replacements and we're seeing some sacrifice, right, of some of those ash trees. So, but do we know how many trees are affected or what percentage of the street trees seem to be affected at this point?
Hard to say right now what percentage of our ash trees are infected. Although just driving through the streets, the signs are there.
Yeah. Right.
Particularly, you'll notice in areas, higher stress areas for trees, usually close to paved areas, places where they don't get as much water, where they're exposed to kind of radiant heat from impervious surfaces. You'll see we've seen exit holes from the emerald ash borer itself, as well as you'll notice it's called a blonding effect, where the bark starts to slough off, and you see this golden yellow surface.
Because that's
appear.
new, right? Last time we talked about this, we hadn't confirmed that the ash borer was here, so that's interesting.
Oh yeah,
A year ago, right? So
Yeah, it's been confirmed in the city, and yeah, if you drive around town, you can see the evidence. So, I know I'm still getting up to speed on the EAB program, but I know that we have a certain percentage of the city's ash trees are being treated with an injection that we do every 2 to 3 years to sort of stave off the infestation, and that sort of buys a portion of our ash canopy time to be removed and eventually replaced.
Does that treatment seem to be working well?
Yeah, yeah. Before working with here and with Velco, I worked in the private tree care industry, and that we've seen good success with those treatments. The main challenge with that is that it needs to be retreated every 2 to 3 years, and even if you spent decades treating a tree, if you miss the interval, all your past work's kind of gone out the window. So it's a good option for certain specimen trees, and as we're using here to sort of delay the inevitable, but sort of allow us to rebuild an urban canopy in the areas where we have to remove it. But yeah, it's a challenging program to maintain.
Do we happen to know that the ash borer also attacked the black ash? Is it like all ash species, or?
As far as I'm aware, it's all ash. Green ash and white ash we see most prevalently, but I believe black ash is susceptible as well.
Tons of black ash in the Great Swamp.
I did notice that I think the ash trees, have they dropped their red, like some component of a flower or something that comes out? Because under each tree was red debris in the street last week.
A lot of our trees are flowering right now. The red flowers we see this time are more prevalently maple.
Okay.
I haven't seen the ash bud break yet. Usually that's like right after bud break, you'll get the flowering, and then those drop. Yeah. But yeah, that's going on this time of year.
Let's hope we don't have a late May super freeze like we had 2 years ago. Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah, those are
Great.
always
Well, thanks
hard.
for coming tonight.
Yeah.
We appreciate you reading the resolution. And can I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Is there any discussion?
Would it be too much to add the phrase sequester carbon in the third whereas?
Yeah, that's definitely a vital.
It's
role of our
important. Yeah,
urban
it's an
canopy as
important
well.
element, and it's if we can, it'd be useful to add it.
What page is that on?
Let me just get to the Word document so I can update it live.
You want to do it in the third paragraph
Yeah.
with erosion?
After clean the air, or somewhere in there, sequester carbon.
Is
Clean
there
air
anything
sequester carbon.
for us to sign tonight?
But you can hang out after the meeting's over, and I'll go up and print it.
You're going to have to hang out. I mean, it could be 11 o'clock.
So, what is the change you want to make?
Just add the 2 words sequester carbon anywhere in there, and after any of those commas.
Clean the air, sequester carbon.
Clean air, sequester carbon.
That's spelled right.
Yeah, that's good. I'm all for that. So you made a motion, you seconded, but you wanted to modify the document?
Friendly amendment, I
Okay.
accept it.
Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Keep up
Thank
the good
you.
work.
Thanks for being here.
Nice to meet you.
We'll move on to item 8, which is hold a first reading of a fire prevention and protection ordinance and possibly set a public hearing for May 19th, 2025 at 7 p.m. with Chris Corbin, the Deputy Fire Chief, John Christman, incoming Fire Marshal. Did I pronounce your last name right? Thank you.
Corbin, there's another chair right behind you. So I think this is the first time Captain / incoming Fire Marshal Crispin is before you. This is part of our succession planning. Obviously, we have Fire Marshal, Deputy Chief Terry Francis in the back as well. Terry will be retiring, very well deserved, over the summer. So bringing John on as part of our succession planning in the fire department.
Congratulations.
Do you give me, how does this work? I think I'm ready.
I think you should be able. Are you not able to share?
In there. Bottom shares.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
And
And then you pick what you want to share.
Good thing you're here.
You might lose your notes.
Where's the,
Just hit the.
all right. Good evening. As the city manager said, Chris Corbin, Deputy Fire Chief, John Grissman, the incoming Fire Marshal. Also in the back of the room, just to acknowledge, is our current Fire Marshal, Deputy Chief Francis, and our Electrical Inspector, Jim Shagnon. So brief presentation on two ordinances tonight. They're both existing ordinances that we're looking to update. First is the Fire Prevention and Protection Ordinance. So just a little background. We have our authority to enforce fire prevention, protection, life safety, and building codes through the Vermont Division of Fire Safety. We have an MOU that we signed with them in June of 2013, which established our Fire Marshal's Office and gave us the authority from the state to the local jurisdiction to enforce those codes. The Fire Marshal's Office, basically the Fire Marshal and the Assistant Fire Marshal are the two primary people responsible for enforcing those. Just to give you an idea, in the last 5 years, they inspected and permitted about $670 million of new construction. Our current jurisdiction is defined as public buildings, which is a duplex, two-family home, or larger, and that'll come into play here shortly. The ordinance was last updated in 2017 by the city. It's also important to note that right now the state of Vermont functions on two primary codes, NFPA 1, NFPA 101. The 2015 edition, those probably some point this calendar year, the state will adopt the 2021 version. That's why John's here, the technical information. So on our proposed updates, we basically have 6 key elements to bring up tonight. The first and probably the largest is adding jurisdiction for single-family homes. And we'll talk about each of these individually. Establishing requirements for fire alarm systems, updating key lockbox requirements, establishing requirements for electric vehicle charging within public buildings, establishing requirements for energy storage systems in all buildings, clarifying fire lanes and access requirements, and then updating formatting and procedural clarifications. You'll see that in both ordinances, and a lot of that is just either bringing common terminology up to date or formatting changes that the city has adopted. So our ordinances look like all others. So single-family home jurisdiction, this would be new. The state of Vermont does not permit and enforce single-family home code enforcement. However, they do allow it. So if this ordinance change was to take place, this is permissible by the state of Vermont Division of Fire Safety, their Life Safety and Fire Protection Code. We're proposing or presenting to you single-family home jurisdiction on all new construction. And our recommendation is any renovations or additions greater than $5,000 in total construction value. The second item on this list are fire alarm systems. And there's a lot of language that's added in the code that you'll see, or in the ordinance rather, under fire alarms. It's nothing new. It's basically just something that was never put in the original ordinance. It's things that are already codified by the NFPA and the state of Vermont and have been done through our permitting requirements all along. We're just actually solidifying those into the ordinance so that they're there. Key lock boxes. So the fire department is blessed with the privilege of having access to any public building, any building with a fire alarm, sprinkler system, and some private residences if the homeowner so desires. Those are done with what we call a key box or a Knox box. And we maintain those keys in all the fire apparatus. They're locked and secured in the fire apparatus. We have that key that you see in the picture on the top. That opens up the box, and inside that box are the keys for the building. Technology has gotten to a point now where they have electronic keys, and advantages of those electronic keys are a couple things. Number one, probably first and foremost, security for the occupancy in general. Every time somebody goes to use that key, they need to put their own personalized code in to energize the key and allow it to work. Then we also have a tracking mechanism to see who used the key, where they used it, when they used it. So that not only establishes a chain of custody for the keys in the lockbox, it also ensures that if we were to lose a key, it wouldn't work for anybody else. So unfortunately right now, if we drop that gold key on the ground and didn't realize it, someone else could pick up that key and use it. So we're, knock on wood, extremely lucky and extremely cognizant of it, but it is a liability for us. It's a liability for business owners and homeowners. Secondarily, each jurisdiction has its own key. So when we either go to other jurisdictions, Burlington, Shelburne, Williston, or they come to us, they either don't have access to those buildings or we basically lend them a key. The whole area is moving to these electronic keys, the e-keys, and this key will allow us access to Burlington buildings if they so desire, and we can grant access to South Burlington buildings to Burlington. So it allows a lot more interoperability among mutual aid partners. The reason this is in the ordinance is that it does specify what boxes need to be installed, and this is a change to the ordinance, to the requirements not only new buildings, but all buildings with a sunset date of December 1, 2026 would be required to retrofit or reinstall boxes with the e-key.
Are they for the public spaces or to get in the building, or to get in the building and get into
Both.
specific units? As well?
Both. So there are master keys that also get us into every individual unit.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and just for clarification, we are the only ones that have access to that, and it's not relinquished. We don't open buildings for the police department or anything like that. It's solely for 911, fire, and EMS emergencies. The next is electric vehicle and storage systems. I just want to go on record first and foremost and say we're by no means speaking negatively about electric vehicles. We're simply bringing to light that there are some hazards that need to be considered, and we're considering those in some of these things, while protecting the public and ensuring we have electric vehicle charging throughout the city where it's desired. So we have two groups of issues here I guess we can speak to. One are existing unprotected combustible buildings. So an example of that may be a condominium complex or a multifamily home complex, something like that, that isn't protected and was not built with the separation and fire protection systems to prevent the spread of fire, and especially the spread of intensity of vehicle fires while they're charging. So the NFPA defines an exposure or a building that could catch fire from another fire building as 50 feet. So we've chosen a 50-foot distance, the exposure distance, and basically saying that if you have a unprotected building, you cannot have a electric vehicle charging station within 50 feet of that building unless it meets code requirements, which are building separation, non-combustible materials, sprinkler system, that sort of thing. In the grand scheme of the city, this is probably a minimally impactful thing. A lot of the places where you could on paper say this is going to be an issue, they don't currently have the power requirements to even support EV charging, say in a lot of the condominium complexes with carports and detached garages. So minimally impactful there.
Does this relate to single-family homes as well?
So we're going to get to that.
Okay.
Yes, we'll get to that.
So when you do have a condo that has a row of carports and they're serviced by 110 and somebody puts a 110 charger, on an EV, would that be
So I guess I hate to answer it this way. If someone's doing that, we don't have a whole lot of control over that right now.
Right.
But certainly if anyone was looking to, install a higher level charger or a bank of chargers, then it would obviously go through the permitting process and also be determined at that point.
And in that case, if it's less than 50 feet, you would want sprinklers or?
So yeah, I mean, to meet the NFPA standard, which we'll discuss in a minute, 855, you would need a 1 hour separation. So basically, you would have to build, a 1 hour sheetrock wall all around that car.
What if the carport's removed 35 feet away across a driveway?
Well, so that's what we're saying with the 50 feet. With the 50 feet, we're not worried about it.
Okay.
Because that is an exposure where there may be a hazard from fire to other vehicles, other garages, other carports. There aren't to the places where people are living and sleeping. So our mindset is that 50 foot is a life safety distance, and if you're beyond that 50 feet, it's what we consider not an exposure, so we're not immediately concerned for life safety there.
And just to clarify, Mr. Chair, they're not talking about exempting the whole building, just the unit or just the part of the carport that's within 50 feet.
Right, okay, great, thanks.
And do you by any chance know, in our housing stock, what percentage of the garages or units are within that 50 feet or outside it?
We don't. I mean, I would definitely say it is very minimal, but we don't have that number. No.
So, and I appreciate that. I had a preview of this, and I answered a lot of my questions. I really appreciate that. But just as I'm sitting here, so if there's if we have a building, 6-8 units, and it has, garage in the building.
Underneath?
Yeah,
Or
underneath.
attached?
Yeah, attached to it. So that would be, and it wasn't built to the NFPA standard, so they wouldn't be able to put charging.
Right.
there
They
at
would,
all.
yeah, as we'll talk about within 50 feet or less, we'll move right into that great segue into it. So in that case, it needs to be built or modified, retrofitted to meet the 855 standard, along with requirements of NFPA 1 and 101, which are adopted per the ordinance, which requires a larger sprinkler system, larger fire suppression system. It requires a 1 hour rating of the structure around those vehicles. It also stipulates where the vehicle charging locations can be. By code, they have them within a certain distance of access points, so those vehicles can be removed. And again, it's not necessarily the electric vehicles in there, it's the electrical vehicles while charging.
And you were explaining to me that the standards that you're articulating are, in fact, the standards that all new buildings need to
Correct. So
be built to today. So what you're basically saying is the existing building should be brought up to that new standard in order to permit EV charging.
yeah, I think using two good examples, 61 North Dorset Street, that was built per the new code based on the fire marshal's recommendations. And that has charging one floor underneath the living space and commercial space, and the fire rating, the fire suppression systems are all designed for it. If someone wanted to put EV charging in the parking garage at 146 Market Street right next door, they would need to go through the retrofit to meet the code. So that all falls right in with that third bullet within or less than 50 feet. Meeting the NFPA standards, which would be the three standards, 855, 1, and 101.
If that charger is on the exterior of a building and the car is parked in the parking lot, does it pertain to that as well, or no?
In all of the buildings we've talked about, the exteriors are non-combustible, so it does not. Do you know how it relates? No.
It's not an issue.
So if it's parked outside and plugged in, it's okay? Okay, great.
It's not necessarily a threat to the occupied structure.
And when we met, I was hoping that some data around, the prevalence, the nature of the risk, I suppose. Is it a de minimis risk that we're addressing here, or is it something that we have seen throughout the nation, and do we have any data on that?
So I don't have a good enough data that my data guy, we played phone tag, and what I had told Chris was we'll make sure we have some better data for you for the public hearing. But I would say it is a emerging risk. We've seen these fires around the country, and we've had some at our own battery storage facilities, some battery fires. But I would say that we're talking about over off Airport Road. I'm just purposely not saying the vendor's name for a purpose. So I think it is an emerging risk. Like anything, we think we're doing some simple steps to minimize that risk.
You did have a car fire in the basement at Odell about a year ago, right?
We did. That car wasn't charging though.
It wasn't an electric car.
It wasn't charging.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it was a car fire in an underground parking garage with a 4-story building on top of residential.
Put out by the sprinkler system.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's the risk we're trying to manage.
Right. So
Do we have a sense how expensive it is for an existing structure? If someone, is in a quadplex and they want to charge their car and, if the quadplex happens to have a garage, is it feasible for the occupants to retrofit, or is it kind of not? Is it just too expensive to undertake?
Yeah, I think the structural aspect of it is not that large of an undertaking. Speaking from a generic sense based upon the actual building. Where you do run into problems, though, is there is a requirement for, even in private dwellings, single-family homes that we'll talk about, for a sprinkler head in that area. So then you have to determine, is it cost-effective to actually run a sprinkler from, and it can be from the domestic system, but actually run a sprinkler to that area.
wow.
Can that be a fire suppression system that's run off a, but as opposed to water, can it be a chemical? It's a lot easier to put in a system with just one chemical head.
Much more cost effective to use
You
water.
should
What, you can't hear me?
folks on, no, we can hear you, but the folks online.
I can hear me.
He'll go over there.
Good evening.
To answer your question, you gotta push the button.
And you have to identify yourself.
Deputy Chief Francis, Borough Fire Marshal's office.
Is a green light on?
Here's a green light on.
Okay.
Okay, all set.
Is it?
Are you getting the thumbs up? You just gotta get really close.
Really close. Move it
Lift it up
closer to you.
Closer to you.
So in answer to your question, water is the cheapest and most effective use of it. It's also been found to do the best job of cooling the vehicle, whether it be a scooter, hoverboard, car, whatever. You also have one of the changes that's coming in 855 is that we have the ability to further compartmentalize the garage and go to, if there's no water available or enough water available, to go to a 2-hour fire rating, which is essentially changing the door from the house to the garage and adding more sheetrock.
So we've passed some ordinances like making it easier or requiring that you put in charger ready, right?
So new construction will meet the standards.
So for new construction, single-family homes, will there be a sprinkler head in the garage?
Yeah. So, can I finish this one little bit and then tie it all together? Great, thank you. So on the last bullet, we talk about energy storage solutions, or what I'll use as the common term, Tesla walls. Again, where we see those in the city now in new construction, they are building those rooms where those are per the direction of the fire marshal's office, but not actually codified yet, to the rating of a 1-hour wall and a sprinkler head, even if it's off the domestic system in that room with the energy storage system. So private dwellings or public buildings, as they're defined for new construction, are currently building this way based on industry standards. This would be bringing it into our actual ordinance, and it would also be saying that any renovation or addition, retrofit, that sort of thing would also require these things now.
Okay. What about all the people that bought EVs and got level 2 chargers from GMP over the last 5 years? And they just had an electrician come in and put them in. They don't have sprinklers in those garages that are, attached to their houses, and I don't know what the fire ratings are depending upon the age of those buildings. So you're shaking your head.
And the only reason I shake my head, right, is that's the difference with building to standards, right?
Yeah.
And so with not having an FPA standard to build to
Right.
on a single family home, right? They didn't have a standard to meet. So
Right. So if somebody wanted, let's say they had a 1-car garage, they wanted to turn it into a 2-car garage, but they had their EV level 2 charger in there, they would have to then follow this new rule and install a sprinkler.
That is correct.
Okay, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
So just and we didn't talk about the Tesla Powerwalls or the other batteries. Is there so I'm kind of aware that for EVs, often if there's a problem, it's because the EV was damaged while driving. Something happened to the car and they plugged it in. Like, it doesn't happen in normal course. Does that happen with battery systems?
I'm going to defer to Terry on the battery wall systems.
I'm fond of saying that the most dangerous thing that we do with EV chargers and all is we put humans in charge of them. Unless we do something bad to the charger, the vehicle, the battery storage pack, if we damage it, if we overheat it, if we don't do the correct maintenance to it, there's generally not a problem. That was early days of lithium-ion batteries. That is not necessarily the case today. And they're improving all the time, thanks to Tesla and Beta and a number of other agencies. We learned a lot about these. They learned a lot about putting better battery technology in there, battery management systems as well, to prevent human interaction from causing a problem. The problem comes is when the batteries fail, they cascade and they burn at about anywhere from 21 to 3,500 degrees, and you can't put them out. So that's why we have to cool them. And if we can stop that thermal runaway, our problem goes away and everybody's safer.
So I'm just reading the so basically for batteries, we're saying all buildings, new, old, except 1, 2, or 3 family. Is that?
No, if this ordinance was adopted in this manner, it would reflect all new single-family homes as well, and
existing.
Anything that was.
So like my single family home, if I want to put a Tesla Powerwall, I couldn't do it unless I put a sprinkler system.
You couldn't do it unless you met the code, and that could be a combination of domestic water sprinkler system, sprinkler head in that space, or fortified, I shouldn't use the word fortified, but fire resistant sheetrock throughout walls throughout that building or throughout that space where the Tesla wall is.
And again, a lot of these battery systems nowadays are available for exterior installation. And if it's an exterior installation, it's clear, or do you have to protect the side of the building that it's next to?
The section of the side of the building would be protected.
Okay.
With an extra thick firewall, right, okay.
I have to say that one sounds like too much to me for existing, single family home. I mean, honestly, throughout the city, there are Tesla Powerwalls in single family homes, right? GMP had that program, and to say going forward, you can only do that if you, I guess, take out everything you have in your garage and sheetrock the whole thing. And I mean, no one's going to do that, right? It just means we won't have any batteries.
Flip side to that, Andrew, I've considered putting in a Tesla Powerwall, and I won't do it for this very reason.
No, but again, what's the risk?
I think you wouldn't have to necessarily renovate your whole garage. You could literally enclose that in a 1 hour rated, 2 hour rated cabinet and meet the standard.
It doesn't need to breathe because it's got the fins.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have the proper airflow, you know, manufacturer, but you wouldn't necessarily have to tear your entire garage apart to make it work.
Has the standard changed for the the amount of firewall for a garage that's inside of a house today? I mean, or let's say 10 years ago, it's gotten it's a stiffer, it's a stronger standard now, higher standard.
And that's one of the reasons why we're looking for the updated adoption of the code and why the state is doing that, is that there's better technologies now, there's better understanding of the fire risks and how fire moves throughout compartments. And we're looking really to do a passive system through better construction and thicker walls, sheetrock. Sheetrock's relatively inexpensive. Most of you can do it yourselves and then tape it correctly, and really it's kind of a minimal impact to provide a higher level of protection. And we're also finding that this is one of the things the insurance companies are starting to look at and asking questions. It's a fairly common question that we get in our office now weekly.
So you do have a choice, firewall or sprinkler?
Chief, just so I can, because I think most of, or a lot of your heating appliances have a sprinkler head above them, right?
They do,
We're talking
yeah.
the same.
So-
We're taking, so in many of your homes above your furnace, you may have a sprinkler head. It runs off your domestic water system. That's the type of sprinkler system we're talking.
Yeah, yeah.
Just for clarity,
But
we're not talking.
That's in a heated space, right? But in a garage, it's an unheated space, right?
Yeah, and actually we have 4 units right now that are going in that have sprinkled garages that are unheated.
Right.
And they use a specialized head for that,
A specialized,
sprinkler head for
but
that.
is the,
It's a dry head. Yes, sir.
oh, yeah, so when that head breaks, then the water comes
Yep.
from the, okay.
Yeah, there's a
so-
check valve on the other side
right,
of the
okay,
heated space.
Okay.
So why did we feel comfortable exempting the 1, 2, or 3 family dwellings from the EV charging standards? But if I'm reading this correctly, but not from the batteries.
No, we're not exempting anyone. No, this is for all. This is for everything.
Just so help me,
Yeah.
Deputy Chief. 1644A says charging of EVs within an unprotected space, with the exception of 1, 2, and 3 family dwellings.
Oh, are you looking at?
Are you
At the
looking at the
ordinance?
specific ordinance? What section?
16. I'm just looking at 1644A EVs. Seems to accept 1, 2, 3 family dwellings, but not C, the energy storage. Unless I'm not reading that correctly.
16.
Guys, it's on page 16.
I got it here. Yes, I have. I'm just reading it. To be honest with you, I think that was original language that we wrote before we discussed adding single family homes to the ordinance. So that was just missed on the original drafting of the language.
So that'll be changed.
That would have to be changed if we so moved in that direction.
Okay, so in other words, I couldn't install a level 2 charger in my single family home. Without adding a sprinkler or additional.
Well, let me ask the question another way. Somebody buys an EV today, they have a home that's, let's say, 10 years old, right? And GMP mails them, ships them a level 2 charge point charger, right? They hire an electrician to install that in their garage. Is that electrician going to know that they have to do something, that they have a new requirement?
So currently as it stands right now, that would be a single family home. So there's no jurisdiction.
No jurisdiction. But
No.
once this is adopted,
If it was adopted in this manner where there was jurisdiction over single family homes, then yeah, the
the
electrician.
electrician would inform the homeowner, oh, by the way, I can do this work, but I've got to do XYZ work, either, more drywall or a sprinkler head.
The electrician would know the electrical side of it.
Right.
But
okay.
they would pull a permit for the work, and at that point, the fire marshal's office would be involved with that permit.
Okay.
So I come back to wanting to have a better understanding of how much we think in a typical garage it would cost. And is it kind of
For new construction or for?
no, for existing? You
Existing,
know, I'm
yeah.
living whatever on Four Sisters Road, and GMP mails me a charger, and I think that I'm going to hire an electrician for $500-600 to put it in. I'd love to understand what we think the typical incremental cost would be to that homeowner of having to meet this this requirement. Because if it's cost prohibitive, it means that we're stopping EVs in the city, right? We're just not going to have them anymore.
Yeah, we can certainly get some data from contractors on that.
Andrew, it doesn't necessarily stop them because chargers can be mounted on the exterior of the building, and you can charge your car in your driveway and then put it in when you, and I understand the resistance to it, but I also, when someone has one of those cars start on fire in their house and they're not protected and someone dies, it's going to suck.
It does come back to this question of how. I mean, we're making a risk assessment here, right? And how many of those scenarios?
I think what's difficult
see?
for us is if I can offer my opinion on this one, it's difficult is if we're going to go down the road of inspecting and holding single family homes accountable to the standard. It's tough to me then to carve out, but you don't have to comply with this part of the code that we enforce. If it was a duplex currently, every other building that so I think that's a struggle for us, is that if we're going to do the single family homes, it's tough to do a carve out for one section that we enforce everything else. And I think that's our reasoning. We brought you this, and we just wanted to highlight for you the challenges of that. But that is at the end of the day, a policy decision for you.
Do we see other municipalities adopting, in effect, retroactively similar rules around the country? I think I'd asked you what California is doing, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, John can speak to some of what they just got from San Francisco was putting together. But again, in Vermont, only Burlington currently enforces the code on single family homes.
And the information that we have out of San Francisco deals mostly with parking structures, right? And the parking structure is either attached to apartment buildings or under apartment buildings. And it's everything that the DC's already highlighted, right? You have to have proper compartmentation, which is your fire separations. You have to have a sprinkler system that is essentially of the highest level that you can get, that covers the area that is going to have the vehicles, charging. And so all that information pertains just to those structures.
But do we know if anyone around the country is in effect saying, existing homeowners, you can't put a Tesla Powerwall or an EV charger unless you upgrade your garage? Is anyone else around the country saying that?
We don't know that yet, and that's the data that we will be getting before, when we spoke to you earlier on it. We'll get that data and understand that better. We've been trying, just haven't connected.
Part of the risk here is not just EVs and a quality charging station like a charge point or whoever else is furnishing the power. It's all those extra devices like scooters and small e-bikes and stuff like that could end up being charged in a garage off of 110, and they're not using the correct charger with the same manufacturer of that transportation device, right? So you get a small fire, but a small fire can lead to a bigger fire because it's next to the gasoline container for the lawnmower, right? And your EV's in there as well, right? So I mean that's a catastrophic situation. But we've heard a lot about small lithium-ion battery fires in enclosed spaces, especially in cities, right, where they had 10 skateboards and scooters lined up, and they were just all plugged into different things, and then they burned down half of an apartment building.
Yeah, and we're not recommending an ordinance that controls what people are doing with inside their locations. I will say a lot of the new construction that we see have bike rooms, and when those developers want the bike rooms to have e-bike charging within them. We're putting timers and larger fire separation and sprinkler systems in those bike rooms to help protect
Right.
from those situations.
Okay. Okay. You want to keep going?
Yeah.
Is there-
Any other questions on the fire and life safety ordinance?
I have one question regarding expanding this to cover single-family homes. Do we have, or what are we planning to do in terms of staffing to cover the additional
Great,
workload?
great question. I was in my notes and completely forgot to mention that. We believe, and I'll just preface this with the electrical presentation I'm about to give as well, that bringing single-family homes into the fire marshal's office under jurisdiction we won't need to add staffing. Our current staff will be able to.
Because there aren't that many being built.
Yeah,
High rate.
Exactly. And even if you look at some of the large developments that maybe have a mix of single family and multi-residential, we tend to see our fire marshal's office kind of unofficially around those locations as well. So they feel pretty confident that the workload at this time wouldn't require additional staffing.
But if you're including any renovation work over $5,000, there are a lot of buildings in South Burlington right now that have building permits and that are having kitchens or remodels or whatever all being done, and those will all fall under this jurisdiction. So there's enough excess manpower to cover that.
There is, I think, one of the important things to note, things like our new permitting software and integrating that with our new records management system actually is starting to take a lot of administrative time or reduce that amount of administrative work.
Chris, iPads in the field.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And with that, now the inspectors are doing all their work out in the field. So they're just on their iPad doing the inspection, doing the work, doing the document control, all right there while they're on the inspection. Thanks, Chief. Good point.
So if you have a new kitchen, right, and it's $10,000, right, what's the permit cost going to be for a single family home for that?
So another great question I had. We have not yet revised the fee structure. After we get through the ordinances, then we will bring you fee structure for both fire and electrical inspections to all of you.
It's currently $8.50 per $1,000 of construction.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, all right. So, want to continue? Or
Questions
that's
on
the end of the
any more on this?
Fire? I don't think.
If you have more, it's fine. I just want to make sure we.
No, I had more. I had some electrical.
Okay.
But before you go on to the electrical ordinance and council prerogative, that's the next agenda item. I think the question we're going to have for you on both of these agenda items is do you have enough information now to set a public hearing to hear from others, or do you want to have another discussion and set a public hearing at a future date?
With apologies for me, I think I'd like to have another discussion and discuss some of this information in terms of do we see other jurisdictions taking this step that we're talking about here, and kind of the prevalence of maybe Tesla Powerwall fires, and just to have a better handle on the risk assessment here, because we this will put a damper, or maybe depending on the cost, like more than a damper, and so it conflicts with some of our other goals, and so there is a risk assessment here that needs to be made, right?
I guess I would ask you, do you feel like because you could still hold the public hearing, ask those questions there, and if you wanted more time, kick another one after that to a second public hearing? Would that, I guess that is, again, your prerogative.
Which is more efficient for you guys?
I guess I would hope that we would bring you the information you need for the five of you, because that meeting you would have five there to make the decision on on how you want to proceed. So I think from an efficiency standpoint, I'd prefer to move to a public hearing, present you the information then, but that's, again, your prerogative.
We definitely want new construction covered by this, right?
Yeah, new construction.
Yeah,
The concerns I'm expressing really revolve around And someone gets their GMP charger in the mail, or GMP has the program with Tesla Powerwall, and now there's this, maybe significant incremental cost out there that we're imposing, and maybe others aren't. That's where I'm.
I don't
There are a
know.
lot of hurdles that we're running into as we're trying to electrify our community. It's happening with upgrading of electrical panels so that people can put in heat pumps, and I think safety is really important. I also think that as these things come up, we need to find a way to make it so that they don't become barriers of entry for the community, because it's an important shift that needs to happen. So
My sense is that hearing what you're saying is we can bring you some language that would exempt certain things out of single family homes for that next hearing that would set off to the side if it's for you to, so you'd have that readily available. Again, we're trying to bring you something that fits the code and holds us consistent. It's tough for us to tell one property owner to do this, but you don't. Your neighbor across the street doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're trying to thread this needle through. If we're going down this road, then let's hold everyone to the same standard. We certainly can bring you some options. I don't know that I like that the best, but again, that's a policy decision at your level.
Adding a sprinkler to your garage, that's expensive. That's going to be at least a couple grand, right?
Not if it's coming off of your domestic water system.
Well, but still, I mean, that's a plumber and some hardware and some drilling and some drywall work, and
Again, depending on how the code is applied, you may or may not require a sprinkler, a plumber. You would not require a sprinkler contractor. You can do it off of PEX tubing, and with a separate head. There are cases I live in Heinsberg. We have a number of houses that have done this as a abundance of caution that the homeowners have chosen to do themselves, and they were able to do themselves for less than $50. But that's doing it yourself and having access to wholesale. Sprinkler heads right now are about $125 a head. No pun intended.
and that's a dry head.
And we're not doing plumbing inspections, so you can do the plumbing yourself.
Correct.
Plumbing just gets you wet, right?
Well, it would be good to have kind of
Where's the plumbing?
information that you all think is accurate in terms of what the incremental cost could be, right?
Sure.
So I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Absolutely.
But single-family homes aren't required to have sprinklers yet. New construction?
They are not. So they are required per the code in the national code. The state of Vermont has removed it from the state code.
Yeah. Okay.
But if we adopted this, they would.
No, we would just be enforcing what Vermont has adopted, and that would be no residential sprinklers.
Interesting.
So this is just sprinklers in the location of the hazard,
Yeah.
not whole building sprinkling.
Yeah. I
Correct.
was just asking.
Oh, not whole building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why don't you go on with the electrical part? And
Okay. Oh. Yeah, I had
our audience is getting a huge education tonight about electrical safety and fire safety and housing construction. So thanks for being here.
Of course, thank you. So electrical installations, again, just a little background. So again, in the state of Vermont, this falls under the Vermont Division of Fire Safety for electrical inspection of public buildings, which is, as they're basically defined, anything over a single family home. This is also covered in our original MOU that was signed with the Division of Fire Safety in 2013. We began electrical inspections in 2015, just for a reference. We enforce at a minimum the NFPA 70-2020 edition. And Jim Shadden, our electrical inspector, is responsible for enforcing the electrical codes. Again, this is current jurisdiction of public buildings, and the last time this ordinance was updated was in May of 2015 when it was originally enacted. So there's not a whole lot here. Two primary things are, let me just go back one for reference as well. The fire and life safety side, there are about a dozen municipalities throughout the state that have various levels of agreements with the state of Vermont to do code enforcement. And on the electrical side of things, there are only about 4 or so in the state that actually do electrical inspections. So we're one of the few. Division of Fire does it for the vast majority of the state. So again, we're adding jurisdiction to single-family homes, and then the only other thing you really see in this is changes to format and procedural clarifications to meet both what we're doing currently with technology as well as the city ordinance formatting changes. So adding the single-family home jurisdiction, this would be on all new construction and all electrical renovations and additions. And at the end, I have a little bit of extra information that wasn't provided to you guys in the packet, but was brought to our attention as a potential change to this. We have owner-occupied licensing exemptions, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And then this is, again, just like fire and life safety, electrical in single-family homes is above the Vermont Division of Fire Safety minimum standards, but it is allowable and included in NFPA 70. So on this slide here, what I just spoke of, so essentially the way we've presented it to you, if you needed to change an outlet, you would have to file for a permit and then have it inspected. So 2 aspects of that we want to talk about. First is the homeowner, single-family homeowner, owner-occupied house, where it requires a permit. However, it doesn't require a licensed electrician. So you as a homeowner would apply for the permit, and you would fill out the permit, get the permit granted to you. You'd have the benefit of a master electrician, i.e. our electrical inspector, inspect your work, but you could do it as a homeowner in your own private dwelling without any licensed electrician doing the work. The 2 exemptions to that are you cannot tie into an electrical panel or an electrical service. So if you were touching a panel or the meter, that would require an electrician, a licensed electrician to do that work.
And this is true if, as a homeowner, I've hired a contractor to do a job, I can do the electrical while they're doing that job?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's an owner-occupied home. Yep.
But it still has to be inspected.
Yes, so you would still fill out a permit and it would be inspected.
So I have a GFI, it goes bad, it's near my kitchen sink, it's 20 years old. I go buy a new one. I need to get a permit to replace a GFI?
So, as it was presented to you, yes. After the packet was put together for you all, we had some feedback, received some feedback on it, where we've added this last slide here, which wasn't in your packet, added for consideration. And this is considering in an owner-occupied single-family home, no permit would be required, but recommended for replacing an existing fixture, outlet, or switch, up to 5 total. So if you wanted to put a new ceiling fan in and a digital switch to control it, you could do that on your own, no permit, no licensed electrician, all on your own. If you wanted to replace 6 of those ceiling fans, you would have to pull a permit. So the one thing I will just
You
bring.
want to enforce your ordinances. You have to stand by your ordinances.
The one thing I will bring up with this consideration thought is that the code uses a terminology breaking wiring. So essentially, if you undid a wire nut, according to the code, that requires a licensed electrician to do the work and a permit filed. So you would be going against the code language by adopting a requirement like this. But this would allow you to change that GFI on your own.
Does it mean I could put a new ceiling fan in?
Up to 5.
Up to 5. Okay. Could I put a ceiling fan in where there was a box there? as well?
So the way we've written this as taking into consideration is replacement of existing.
Okay, okay.
If you were putting a ceiling fan in place of a light fixture, that would be replacing as existing.
Yeah, okay.
If you were rewiring a whole new ceiling fan, that would be new.
So this makes sense to me, is like replacing existing as opposed to new. Seems like that does kind of strike the right balance there. The 5 total, is that like ever, lifetime, per year, per incident? Like what's the 5?
Again, policy decision for you all to make. I think the intention was 5. The recommendation's 5 total
Forever.
But yeah, that's obviously a policy decision for you guys.
I maybe,
We're just trying. We're trying to
I'd say,
find
like,
some middle
5
ground.
year or something.
We're trying to find some middle ground leniency here for Tim replacing his.
This doesn't
G5.
include replacing a broken smoke detector or CO head, right?
So actually, the code already states that you can replace smoke detectors and CO detectors
Okay.
on your own.
Okay. Okay.
Question on the owner-occupied wiring. I have a builder who's coming in to put a new kitchen in for me. I can do the wiring, but I can't put anything in the panel. But the new kitchen requires 2 new circuits. So I'm allowed to do the homeowner wiring, but I can't connect those circuits to the panel.
That's correct. You would need a licensed electrician to connect to the panel.
So, okay, got it.
And just to answer the question, if any of you are thinking of it or wondering it, this is commonplace. This is the way the city of Burlington operates with the owner-occupied single family, to our understanding, but you cannot touch the panel as service.
What about somebody that gets a solar installation put on? Do you have to come inspect the work for that?
Yes.
You do. Okay, so for single family homes, that's a new thing, right? Because before there was like nobody doing. That would be new. That would be new. Okay, all right.
We don't inspect that now
Right,
on a single
right.
family home.
Okay, so the solar installer is going to have to pull a permit to get an electrical inspection of the work that they did. Does that include? Are you connected on the roof, or is it just like looking at what's coming down the conduit into the basement or on the side where the inverter is? And oh, come on down.
Jimmy's coming.
This is why I brought reinforcements tonight.
Not to get into the weeds.
Well, no, this is important. This is another situation where someone's adding, solar and get real close. Is the green light on?
I am your electrical inspector for you guys.
Is the green light on?
It's on.
Okay,
Yep.
and get close.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. So on the solar part of it, what happens is on the roof section, we used to have photos, especially on a residential, something like that. I would take photos. Well, they would take photos of that situation.
Photo. Okay.
Most of what I inspect would be coming down the wall into the meter area, in the service area, and that's where I would inspect. Yep. There's been occasions on commercials where I am on the roof, and they have lifts for us to do that.
Mhm.
But on residential, it's such a basic setup that we really don't need to be on top of the roof. We can see everything from the ground level.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And the same for new heat pump installation as well?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And is it the same 850 per 1,000, or is that different?
So no. And one of the challenges with the electrical, it is by fixture. It is a really, I'm just gonna say, a goofy system that the state uses. We would like to bring you a much cleaner version. We're not going to, because we don't have enough data to know what that percentage should be. I suspect in 2026 we'll come back with an updated fee schedule. So it is $50 minimum, and
Yeah, your base fee for something like that would be $60.
Oh, okay. So I put a significant solar system, 30 panels on my house. It's $60 for the.
Right around $60 it would be.
Okay.
I will caution you, Andrew, just because I don't want for full disclosure. Like Elizabeth was recently telling me that her contractor charged her significantly more than $60. She was surprised the permit cost over $200, and I said no. I looked it up.
Contractor charge for the time of preparing it, and
There was an upcharge on it. So
Upcharge.
if someone tells you it cost them more, it very well may have. Our fee was $60.
but it's not going to be 2,000.
No, there shouldn't be. No.
Is there new breaker technology to help detect like current surges when lithium chargers are going nuts and starting to cause fires and stuff like that?
They are. There's a new panel that's out called SPAN, and it can indicate any kind of load change that you're having in your property. That panel alone is around $2,500, and it's only a 24 position breaker position.
Yeah.
Normally, you're paying for a 24 position roughly around $80
Yeah.
to 100.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money, and it's a computer.
Oh,
So the warranty on it's a little bit different than a regular panel.
yeah. But that's not a requirement.
That is not a requirement.
Yeah.
Does it work better than arc fault breakers?
No.
So just while we're on Tim's question, I have in my home.
Leave it off.
Something called a ting sensor. You plug in. It's supposed to monitor your home for electric spikes. Is that something you're familiar with? And with
Yeah,
that,
you can. Yeah, you can. GMP was actually giving some of those out at one time for refrigerators and stuff like that, so you could plug in, see what your
Well-
usage was, and you know. Yeah.
And would that give like warning if something were?
Yes, it would.
It
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, my insurance company mailed them to me.
What did
Yeah.
you do?
It's a ting. It's a sensor,
Yeah.
and you plug it into an outlet, and it gives real time feedback on your phone
Okay.
as to what's happening with the electrical system.
You plug it in and you plug your appliance into it?
No. It monitors the
it just monitors
entire house.
oh, okay.
Mo-
So
it
get
monitors
your line-
that circuit that it's plugged into.
your-
So
yeah.
you
Yeah.
have an individual circuit. So if you plug into a receptacle, it's on monitoring that circuit only.
Oh, okay.
So if you have other appliances tied to that circuit, it's going
Yeah.
to indicate you if there's an issue. It's going to say, you know, you're peaking out in your current.
Yeah.
Your voltage is peaking out,
Yeah,
and it's going to flag you, like you're saying on your phone,
Oh.
saying, "Hey, wait a minute, there's something going on."
Well, this purports to monitor the entire house. If
It does?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm okay with this. I would say like 5 a year or something. Like it can't be 5 forever. Like no one can't keep track of that, right? I mean,
Yeah, 5 a year sounds. I mean, you know what's going to happen, right? I mean, because all it takes is somebody to say, "I want that wall blue, and I don't want any of those beige." You know, those 6 beige receptacles around the room, or whatever it is. Or year 1, it's like 5. Year 2, it's like the next room, and it's like going from white to, red, and I can't have. So, anyway, the key is turn the breaker off before you do that work, and make sure you. So yeah, so I think.
So if you're liking this language, we can amend that into the draft, because we didn't, this was a slide added to the presentation.
Yeah.
And to make that ready for if you move this to public hearing.
Is the restriction to 5 total to try and minimize the amount of risk that's happening from a homeowner doing the work?
Yes.
So if it's 5 at any one time, if I did 5 this year and a year's gone by and there's been no problem, doing 5 at a time is minimizing that risk. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So trying to say 5 forever just seems like a really onerous thing for a homeowner.
Let's just be honest. It's going to be impossible to know where
Who
that
did
5
what?
is.
Yes.
And so I almost read that unless we added additional language to be 5 at that event. So this month I changed these 5 outlets. Next. So I think this is very difficult. We're talking about intent now, right? I think so. It may be what's going to happen here. Someone's going to call and say, "Do I need a permit? I'm looking to do this." And I think we're going to say, "Well, how many outlets are you changing?" That's what's going to happen, because they're going to send a permit in, and then we'll then have a conversation and then figure out what they're doing.
I think, I'm just clarifying, I think 5 total per event makes a whole lot more sense than trying to say 5
well,
total.
maybe then we just don't need the 5 at all. I mean, I tend to agree with you too, but like, what's
Well,
the event then?
Well,
Is it like over a day or a week or 2 weeks? It's just like it creates so much
I
ambiguity,
get it.
right?
If someone goes through their house and replaces all their receptacles,
Yeah,
and they're not accustomed to what they're doing,
yeah.
it could cause a big problem. If
You-
they do 5, it's a much smaller problem.
You may be able to put a period after switch. Again, if you're just replacing existing, I
Yeah,
think, Andrew, this is
exactly.
what you're trying to get
That's
to.
what I'm trying. Just
if you
just period
say,
after switch.
Put a period after
Existing.
switch.
I think so.
Because you're not adding new circuits.
You're not
You're
adding
just-
new wiring,
you're
right? You're
just-
not changing wiring. Right?
That's fine with me.
I would probably just.
5 total, seems really.
I would probably
takes out a degree of complexity. We don't
delete
need
the
to add
file.
to it.
It's to create ambiguity and just who's tracking it, and it's just I would take that out. I
Because
think.
the risk is either A, they put together, they turn the breaker and it goes off, or B, they don't have ground, right? And that could be a problem.
There's other
You know.
factors, but that's
Hopefully they turn the breaker off. Are
Hopefully
you
they do.
planning on having any?
Well, I think I think the interesting thing, because I said that similar thing, and then Jim said, "Well, it depends. How they add a piece of 12 wire to a 14, or did they use?
No,
did they
no.
grab a 50?
Yeah.
When they went to Home Depot, did they grab a 15 amp
Yeah, right.
outlet when they
Yeah.
should have grabbed a 20 amp
No,
outlet?
it's true.
And
It's true.
I said, didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That's why he's the
There's
inspector.
a lot
So-
of concerns that I have, but whatever you guys decide is fine. We'll work with it. But there's a lot of factors involved in somebody just replacing a receptacle.
Yeah.
Is it the right receptacle?
Yeah.
The wires in the box, were they long enough? Did you add wires to it?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
extend it?
Yeah.
Our code requires if you do change the receptacle, it has to be an arc fault receptacle.
Oh,
Arc fault.
For the receptacle?
For the receptacle. That's what our National Electrical Code says. That's what I'm saying. There's so many
Yeah.
factors that,
Yeah.
if you're going by code, this is what the code is.
yeah.
So we're kind of, we could open up we can go really deep with this, but
Yeah.
so.
I wish we could just rely on integrity.
Well, that begs the question, are you going to have any educational materials online in conjunction with your, no, you're not.
I mean, I don't.
I'm just, for somebody that says, I'm just asking a question, but maybe that's the point's moot. That, huh?
YouTube.
There's a lot of, so never mind. Forget I asked the question.
I mean, I think the education will be ultimately you got to pull a permit. And then from there, I think most homeowners are happy to have it inspected and
Yeah.
say, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. So
Right.
I think the real education comes from
Yeah.
pull a permit.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely can be a learning tool. I mean, I get
Yeah.
calls from owners now saying, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? I know you don't have jurisdiction over this, but what do you think?"
Yeah.
And I love doing that. I mean, I love educating people, and a lot of them they're really welcoming them a lot. I mean, it really helps them out a lot, and they're really thankful for it. So.
Yep.
There's usually a line of firefighters at his door throughout the week, like, hey, I want to do this at my house.
Why we want to keep them co-located.
Well, at the very least, even with this exception, there still could be, I mean, like I said, educational, but pointers to say you can ask, you can still have an inspector come. You can pay to have somebody come and do the inspection and tell you what you did wrong or if you did it right,
Yes. Yeah.
So, or at least get your opinion beforehand as well. So, that's good to know.
And then I think the last thing just to point out in the electrical ordinance is the only other thing that was added, which is commonplace and per the code. Just like if you have solar panels, your meter has to be labeled that it has solar panels. You have to label any outside power supplies. If you have a battery, if you have a energy storage system, so a Tesla wall or something like that, you need to mark that on the outside in the same way, just so at the power company, the fire department, we all know that it's supplied with that.
You haven't had any solar installation fires yet, have you?
No.
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 Okay. Yeah. It's pretty low key.
So I think the question for you now, sorry, Chrissy,
No, I'll set.
do you want to move this one forward to a public hearing? Do you want to move both of them forward to a public hearing? Do you want to bifurcate them?
I'm certainly comfortable moving this one forward with the change that we include this provision without the 5. My own preference would be to get more information so we know what we're drafting for the fire one before we move to public hearing. I'm just not sure, and there are some significant policy implications to what we're talking about that I think we should resolve as a council before we start drafting.
Especially with 5 counselors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lori?
That's good with me.
Okay. So if we advance the electrical one, do you want to go ahead and set the date for that, or do you want to wait and set both together?
That was my question for you. Do you want to?
Is there a reason to tie them together, or if we're comfortable advancing the electrical, should we do that?
I would move.
Go ahead and do it.
the decks one at
Okay.
a time.
Move electrical forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a motion in your cover sheet. Is that open? Would you like me to read it?
No, I'll get it. I'll get it.
Are you worried about the fee resolution?
No, I'm just
Is that about for the electrical or for the?
Electrical.
So I move that the city council pass the proposed amendments to the electrical installations ordinance at first reading, including the added consideration with the deletion of up to 5 total, and set a second reading and public hearing for May 19th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, is there some discussion because you were talking? Or?
Just again, policy, implementing governing of single family home on one of these subjects before you're going to go to the other. So we're going to do electrical, but we're not going to do construction. And so I think Chris's a valid point, do we want to roll this out at one time for if we're going to we may maybe making some additional requirements on the single family homeowner, do we want to do these at the same time? And there is some logic to that. And again, it doesn't hurt us if we kick the electrical to mid-June, right? So I know you just made a motion. Sorry, I didn't come up with that before. I think we're okay either way. It's a
What do you prefer?
I mean, I think I'd prefer to roll them out as one, under the assumption that there'll be some single-family home provisions in the fire and life safety ordinance. I think it's a cleaner transition for both of them at once.
I think he's right.
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion is rescinded. There's no motion on the table. So good.
Yeah, and then we'll just make if you get to the place with the single family homes at your next meeting and you want to move it to public hearing, we'll just make one motion to move, or two motions to move them both at the same night sometime in June.
Yeah.
Roger that.
Very interesting discussion. I enjoyed it because it's, fire safety, electrical safety is cool. It's
I feel like
really,
you've
no, it
been
really is.
waiting.
It's important. And it's important from day one when you're designing the home, you're building the home, then you make sure that it's built to specification, and then it's the homeowner taking over after that and then relying on that infrastructure to keep them safe, right? Hopefully, keep it from burning up. So, one way or the other. Okay. Well,
I feel like
thanks.
You've been asking for this since I started. You've wanted.
I have. Well, it seemed like a logical thing that why don't we inspect single-family homes?
Thank
Now
you
we're
all.
Finding out what the cost is.
Thank
So,
you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. So that was 8 and 9 that we've done, and we're going to go to item 10, which is convene as a liquor control commission to consider the following applications for approval as printed in the agenda, starting with Zachary Pizza and ending with Old Post LLC. Can I have a motion to enter a liquor control?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Now we are in liquor control. Can I have a motion to approve all of these licenses as printed in the agenda?
So moved. Oh, second.
So Lori,
Doesn't matter.
okay, Lori moved it, and Andrew seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Now I need another motion to come out of liquor control.
So moved.
Second.
So we have motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we're out of liquor control, and now we're down to item 11, which is review the significant agenda topics below for the council's May 5th council meeting.
So-
Okay, go ahead.
May 5th will be a fun meeting. So right now, the significant items on your agenda are the first reading of the update to the heating and service hot water ordinance. Nick Longo will be here from the airport to present on operations expansion plans and their climate action plan implementation and the noise mitigation program. We will then have Paul do a presentation on 3 key things. The regional future land use map is required under Act 181, the potential Act 250 Tier 1B request from the Planning Commission, and then an overview and feedback on the housing targets under Acts 47 and 181. I'll then bring you a conversation about the committee appointment process for this year, which Councilor Smith mentioned earlier, a recommendation on the FY26 policy priorities and strategies process, and your social service fund allocations.
So Jesse, on A, so I was the one that reminded us all that the 2-year time limit expired, so that we need to potentially do something. But I also voted last session against bringing a first reading because I didn't feel we had enough information to really know yet. Because there are jurisdictions, significant jurisdictions around the country now that are requiring all electric, including for hot water. And there are in the past year a bunch of new systems out there. The split systems for hot water, similar to mini splits for air. There are these large central systems that can have separate meters running to each apartment. 800 gallon mortar tanks with a split system. So I felt I didn't have enough information, honestly, and I hope that if we do this next week, we get that information so we can make a informed decision.
Yep. So heard and understood when Bettina presented last meeting about this. She is doing that research now. It's just a first reading. It's not a public hearing. So the council can do what it would like with whatever information is presented or ask for more information.
Great. Any other comments about that item? Moving on to item 12, does anybody have any other business? So the only other business I have is graffiti. And Burlington is really sick with graffiti right now. And I don't remember if we have a graffiti ordinance or not, but maybe we should bring this up at the next retreat. And think about whether we need a pretty strong ordinance about that.
Well, I had brought up a few times, you called graffiti, I called it a maintenance ordinance, which includes graffiti and, just generally keeping your building from falling apart ordinance, which, I think would be really useful.
Yeah, because,
Burlington just added additional teeth to their delinquent building.
To the
ordinance.
delinquent building, right.
Yes.
Yeah, vacant, empty.
And that problem is temporarily resolved for us, it seems, right now.
Mhm.
But it's likely to become an issue again. And it would be ideal to have something in place so that if something like that happens again, we have a way to mitigate it.
The thing with graffiti is that it's got to be attacked immediately. Like within 24 to 48 hours,
So it
it has to be
doesn't set.
covered up to discourage them from doing it again, right? And there has to be a consequence, right? If the person is identified, it can go through the CJC, which it has before. But nonetheless, right? There needs to be something done. People need to be taught that it's not nice to scrawl all over somebody's private property or across city property or across state property, right? If there needs to be some sort of a sanctioned, event with the Public Arts Committee that's set up, or through Parks and Rec, through a billboard or something that's set up for that purpose, that's great, right? But I'm telling you, if we don't respond immediately and then help try to identify the people that do it, then you just give them free rein. And the Pizza Hut was the number one, example of
Those two buildings.
that. Right. So if
And it started to spill over onto the old Denny's building.
Right. They got up on the roof after it was being refurbished, right, and they scrawled up there too. So anyway, that's something that.
At one point I drafted what I called the maintenance ordinance, which would have included graffiti. I can try and dig that back up.
Okay.
I just copied something from somewhere, and I'd be all in favor of it.
I don't think we have that many abandoned buildings. The only one I can think of is on Dorset Street, but that's got a DRB notice in front of it, so it's due to be torn down at some point, and then a new house. I think there's a plan for that.
No, I think we're in good shape right now.
Now we are,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
but preventative.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for 12? No. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Oh, look at this. Now, did I beat you or did you beat me from last time?
You did great.